right, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals here for a little bit. As we get ready for the NFL draft, as we get ready for free agency, it's important to take a step back and understand what teams are set up for the most success to capitalize on these opportunities to add to their talent and make their team most prepared for deep playoff and championship runs. And we've come up with a way to analyze how smart a team has managed their roster and managed their situation. We call it the intelligence score. And let's break it down here. Let's pull up the table, kind of highlighting exactly the top teams in the AFC based on their intelligence score or how smart their operation is. And there's a few factors we put into this. We looked at a team's cap space and gave it a score. That's the open space in their salary cap to add players, whether retain talent or add free agents or trade for other players. Then we have dead cap hit. We grade teams on their dead cap hit. A dead cap hit is salary cap dollars allocated to a player who's not currently on your team. Let's say you signed a guy to a big extension with a bunch of guaranteed money and you cut him after year one because he stinks. It wasn't worth signing him. You still have some dead cap based on that guaranteed money allocated against you that season. And then we graded teams on their draft capital. That's obviously how many picks do they have, where they are in the draft, and rank them against the other teams. And then we factored in their standing for the prior year. And the reason we factored in their standing is because obviously if a team wanted to and they tanked, they could cut all their best players, open up a lot of salary cap dollars, and maybe move up really high in the draft because they weren't very good and have a really good draft capital. But then that's not really the goal, right? If you're 2-14 or 2-15 every year, just because you have a lot of salary cap, that's not where you want to be. So standing reflects the current quality of your team versus the rest of the factors, your cap space, dead cap hit, and draft capital. And what you will notice is that the Cincinnati Bengals are at the very top of this in the AFC with an intelligence score of 86. That's better than every other team in the AFC, including teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, two of the most well-run franchises in the AFC as well. So we hear a lot about other teams with well-run front offices and well-run rosters and things like that. I think the Bengals are a lot better, obviously, than people give them credit for. I think it's fair to say they're the smartest team in the AFC as we get ready for this offseason. Myles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but first, Bengals fans in the comment section below. Again, free agency, not that far away. What's one position group you think Cincinnati really needs to focus on this offseason, not just in free agency, but in the draft as well? I'll throw both of those factors into whether it's draft or free agency. What's one position group you think the Bengals really need to get after, and put it in the comment section below. But Myles, what are your thoughts on the Bengals and specifically the fact that they seem to be running a much smarter ship than the rest of their competition?
Yeah, I think it shows. You look on this sheet, outside of the Chiefs, the Bengals are the only one that's been to the Super Bowl. And as far as the last like 5, 6, 7 years, the Bengals are a team that has the most results. And I think that just goes to show that the Bengals are doing a lot of really smart things. You look at their cap space, 29th, and just one thing, 32 is the highest possible score you could get in cap space. 1 is the lowest score, so a team with 1 would have the least amount of cap space. Bengals at 29 with their cap space. They're killing it. This is a competitive, deep playoff run team with some of the most cap space coming in next year. I know the T. Higgins decision is coming up, but whether they sign him or not, I don't think that's going to affect their score too much on the ways of cap space goes. Dead cap hit 21st to show they don't make dumb decisions. They don't sign guys to long extensions that they're going to cut later on. They don't sign people to extensions that they have to move on from. They're pretty frugal in that aspect as far as signing guys that stay with the team and do well, and they don't have to have a lot of dead cap hits. And then their draft capital, being this competitive and still being middle of the pack with this level of draft capital is tough. Because if you're winning, your draft capital is going to go down because you're not going to have as valuable of picks as the teams that are tanking, like we said, move themselves up to the number 1 pick in the draft. I just think overall the Bengals are very well run, and this has not always been the case. You go back, I'd say 7, 8 years ago, the Bengals weren't that well run. A lot of people, said they never spent money. A lot of people said, the Bengals, they weren't really making any splashy signings. In comes the Joe Burrow era. Gabe Blackburn takes over a lot of the thinking behind the team. They start spending more money. They start getting better players around the ball. You start making smart free agent signings. I think this Bengals team is in the right direction, and I just think for Bengals fans, this is a metric that is all common sense. All of these things are quantifiable data. This isn't just guesswork going into this stuff, but the proof is in the pudding. You can see the results here. The Bengals combined are the smartest team in the AFC and one of the smartest teams in the entire NFL. I think this just goes to show outside of a Joe Burrow injury, you're one of the best teams. You should be going to the AFC Championship every year. You are that guy. So I think this goes as a proof for the Bengals fans that you have a great team and things are going in the right direction.
And it's also an indication, right? Because there's some concern that the Bengals, with the contracts and decisions coming up, whether it's with Higgins or Jamar Chase potential future deal, people are like, the Cincinnati Bengals going to be long-term good. They're going to have to throw some money at these people, or they're going to have to replace them. They're going to be fine. They're going to be one of the top contenders. It's so strange because we talk about it on this channel, at least I talk about it like this. A title window is usually only 2 to 3 years. And we saw the Bengals with their title window starting, I think, really 3 years ago when the Bengals made the run to the Super Bowl. I think this is a team whose title window is abnormally long. And it's all because they're smarter than a lot of other teams. And frankly, every other team in the AFC based on this metric. It's because they haven't put themselves in a bad position. They draft well. They don't oversign players. They let certain players walk instead of giving them huge mega deals and don't put themselves in bad positions. They don't waste all their draft capital. Like, this is a team that doesn't just throw away a lot of second and third round picks willy-nilly just to try and get one veteran here for maybe one playoff push. Right? They're smart with their salary cap negotiations and how they structure it. The Joe Burrow deal, while big, is relatively team friendly. I'm expecting the Higgins and Chase potential deals to go exactly the same way as well. And when you're set up and run intelligently, good things tend to happen. You don't overexert yourself. And that's the real risk that talented teams run. Because I really think that's the problem with a team like the Buffalo Bills, for example. If you look at the Bills, they are third worst in cap space. If you look at this in the that is not a good position to be in. Number 3 bottom in the NFL in cap space. The Buffalo Bills are what the Buffalo Bills are going to be. They are. They're not going to get any better. So the reality is the Bills, while a top contender, they can't improve. Even the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens are right around middle of the pack in cap space, right? They can improve a little, but not a lot. The Bengals, which when healthy are just as good as any of those teams, if not better, can improve significantly. And I think that's what separates Cincinnati for the rest of their competition. Everybody else of the elite teams in the AFC, they're here. The Bengals are right here talent-wise as well. The Bengals have an opportunity to supersede them over the next coming years. And people are talking about the Chiefs dynasty, and rightly so. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals take down the Chiefs once again a few times in the postseason in these coming years, strictly because they're run even smarter than the Chiefs are.